Okay, just to throw a healthy dose of positive peakness in your face as soon as you have clicked this video, I was thinking about this sort of yesterday and I thought, well, what happens with SmackDown? I think that wrestling hit a clean sweep this week. That's right, I said it. I enjoyed every single show. It made me feel all peaches and cream in my tum-tum. And when I feel peaches and cream in my tum-tum, you can call me a happy chap. There was a lot of words there. So yes, as I've already mentioned, I really did enjoy SmackDown, and who even cares anymore? It's because of Roman Reigns. I love it because of Roman Reigns. I think this character is what he should have been back in 1948. You know, is better late than never, but better never late. My name is Simon Miller. Let's up those downs. The Dirt Sheet started SmackDown, and for once, it actually made sense because it's called the Dirt Sheet, and The Miz and John Morrison said they were about to reveal a bunch of dirt on people. So they were going to talk about Sasha Banks and Bayley, they were going to talk about Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and they were going to talk about the fact that Repo Man hasn't been seen on WWE TV since WrestleMania 17. I made that one up. The real scoop, of course, though, was that last week The Miz had used his magical booking powers that I didn't know that he had to trade Mandy Rose to Raw, and of course he did this to wind up Otis, but he had justification because The Miz was like, I didn't do that because I'm a bad guy, I did it because I'm a good guy, and Otis should be focusing on his Money in the Bank briefcase, and I just got rid of all the distractions. Started to pretend that maybe she's now going to get it on with Dolph Ziggler, and the only small, tiny little problem I do have with this is that we fans know that every single WWE show is in the Thunderdome, so why can't they just hang out backstage? Long gone are the days when wrestlers should travel around everywhere. So I was a bit like, what are you trying to sell me here, Miz? These days, it's just a different colour and they're just on different nights. Obviously, Otis finally arrived because they were just running him down, but he still did his full entrance before he attacked The Miz and John Morrison. That would be like being in the playground and somebody challenged you to a fight and you just thrust your hands in the air and go, shall I do it? And all the other kids are looking at you like, just punch him, you fool. He did whip Miz's ass, and this was correct because strong baby faces have been missing from WWE for years, and now all of a sudden, we've got them everywhere. I'm a teeny little bit concerned that maybe it's making the Money in the Bank briefcase a joke. Case in point, at the end of this, The Miz was just stood there, or laying there I should say, in his pants. But even that wasn't too embarrassing. Wrestlers literally come out every single week in their underwear, and they love it. In the back though, Miz claimed that this was all part of his plan and even took a phone call where he said, did you see it? Was it enough? Did you get it? And that's all you need to do in WWE. It lit a fire under my ass. I was really intrigued. We should have held this off till the following week, and really we should have come up with something different, but we didn't do either of those two things. I'll talk about it later, but right here at this moment, I was giving it up. And therefore it gets it up. The Lucha House Party though, they have clearly nibbled on this WWE cookie that all the superstars have been eating because they are not getting on at all. And in fact here, Kalisto and Lince Dorado were arguing about the strategy Grandmother Metalik should have when he takes on Cesaro. And I was a bit mad because we were then seeing Nana versus Cesaro, and these two teams just seem to be going at each other constantly, especially because they're going to have a proper tag team title match at the pay-per-view, and how you can justify that I don't know. But again, it was Grand Metalik, my grandmother, versus Cesaro. It's always good, and it's always it up. Dorado and Kalisto were just shouting at the man the whole time, giving him conflicting advice. This was like, you know, some poor kid at a soccer game with his divorced parents who were just fighting each other and couldn't get past it, and it just screwed the guy up because the Swiss Superman was able to take control. And it really was this rowing which was too much for Nanny, which is why Cesaro jumped on it like Finn Balor and somebody's ribs, because he gave him a big uppercut, he hit him with the neutralizer, and he pinned him for the 1-2-3. And just in case you want to hate the SmackDown Tag Team Champions anymore, at some point halfway through, Shinsuke Nakamura also was on the offensive. These guys. Still though, hopefully they'll retain their tag team championships at Clash of Champions, and then we can just break the Lucha House Party up, and those three can feud. Can you imagine that triple threat match? It will blow your damn mind. Jey Uso then looked a little bit like a goof, but to be fair to him, it was an understandable one. That's quite the role to pull off, but as he was doing an interview with Kayla Braxton, he calmed everything down and said, look, I've chatted to Roman, or more specifically, I've chatted to Paul Heyman, and he all said that what happened on last SmackDown was a big communication error. And you're like, Jay, come on now, you're fooling yourself. But imagine you were in a relationship and you love this person so much, and then you found out they were cheating on you. We all do mental gymnastics trying to go, they wouldn't cheat on me, please don't break my heart. So I feel for the man, I really do, and I thought that was a great character trait to give him, and he finished off by saying, 1, he will win the Universal Championship at Clash of Champions, and 2, later on him and Rowan will win the Samoan Street Fight against Cesaro and Baron Corbin, even though, you know, there's an Irish guy and American. Right, who had the 19th of December 2002 for the day that we ruined Matt Riddle? Oh, it's Steve. Steve in the back. Round of applause for Steve. You're getting it right, but this is getting it down. And what am I talking about? Well, here, Matt Riddle is now hosting a new segment called Know Your Bro, where he says the word bro using different emotions like angry or happy or sad. And we're meant to go, oh, it's so great that he loves the word bro. I'm not making this up. He even put on different voices, and I have absolutely no idea what this was meant to be, and I kind of felt like I was having a weird fever dream. Wasn't even on the show last week, and now he's back talking to us about the word bro. WWE is so weird. A moment of bliss was next, and that meant there was 2 talk shows on one WWE program. Ah, shit, so you know what we've got to do.
Oh, you jackass.
I mean, honestly, we haven't seen each other for months. Why do you have to be such a horrible person?
Love you.
All right, let's try and give the people at home something nice. What have you been doing since we last saw each other?
Hating your ass and hoping that you die.
That is way too much. I hate that guy. I hate him. It ruins my self-esteem. What took it back up is that this was absolutely hilarious because Alexa Bliss's guest was Nikki Cross, who is also her best friend. That's like when you're a kid and you want to host your own talk show because you've seen it on TV, but your mum doesn't want to get involved. She's like, this is pathetic, and your dad's at work. So what do? You just grab a random friend and you interview them. And what do you say? How's school? You already know we go to the same one. Alexa did ask the hard questions though, because she wanted to know how the hell Nikki Cross was going to beat Bayley, given that the SmackDown Women's Champion had beaten her senseless throughout the summer. And fair play to Nikki, she had a good retort. She was like, well, she doesn't have Sasha Banks in her corner anymore, does she? It was her fault I lost, so now I'm gonna win. Cross didn't care about any of that because she wanted to know why Alexa had sister Abigail'd her last week. And it was a bit like, you were in a match. There's no friends in baseball. Yeah, wrestling, that's a niche reference there. And then I think it was pick a random wrestler's name out of a hat, because outswanned Lacey Evans. She also had an excuse about why she didn't win last week's matchup, and it was because after Alexa Bliss had abandoned the fight, she was all discombobulated. Now, fair play to Lacey. She did sell it like she knew it was the worst excuse ever, but it's 100% the worst excuse ever. Nikki then used Lacey Evans' handkerchief to blow her nose as if this was the most offensive thing ever, and I started to chuckle because I was like, now we're doing stuff like this. And do you remember when Lacey Evans was a face for about 8 seconds? She was like, oh, I love my country, and now she's an asshole again for absolutely no reason. To be fair, despite all of this nonsense, at least we did address things that were happening last week, so you kind of felt you were involved, and we kind of justified how we could have another Nikki Cross and Bayley match, even though I don't want to see it. Unfortunately, we then got Lacey Evans versus Nikki Cross, you know, because she used a handkerchief to do what you're meant to do with a handkerchief. And while it was fine, there was just too much nonsense is getting it down. And what I'm talking about is that while they actually worked quite well together, at one point, Lacey Evans had some hand sanitizer, because, you know, global pandemic, and she was just squirting it into Nikki Cross's face. And the referee was like, well, I don't really care about this. Even the announcers were going, oh, shouldn't that be a DQ? And when your announcers are talking sense, but what's happening in the ring doesn't make sense, it just really hurts your brain. It didn't even work either, so it made Lacey Evans look like a right numpty, and eventually Nikki Cross hit that swinging neckbreaker and she got the win. Somehow she'll probably win the match a week on Sunday, and then I'll have to smash my face into a wall. I don't know why, I just think it would really be stupid. What I do like though is all this Sister Abigail, The Fiend, Alexa Cross stuff, even though it feels a little bit like a crappy B horror movie. Well, I like crappy B horror movies. Because Lacey Evans was so mad afterwards, she went to yell at Alexa Bliss, who was on commentary, accidentally said the word fiend, and then all of a sudden Alexa Bliss was a zombie, and she Sister Abigail'd Lacey Evans much like she had done last week. So like, it's kind of crap, and it's kind of stupid, but it's also kind of fun, but you can put all those 3 things in a cake, and the cake will taste delicious. I'm giving it an up. I'm intrigued. We then had a really good promo package narrated by Paul Heyman, talking about everything with the Roman Reigns and the Jey Usos and the Samoan heritage that runs through WWE, and my word, by the end of it I was like, this is the greatest moment of my entire life. And then we cut to Sasha Banks doing a promo at the Performance Center, and that was absolutely fabu too. Up. Now you could argue that maybe WWE should have kept Sasha off TV just for a little bit longer, but she had a neck brace on, so she was selling her injuries, and also let's just call a spade, Sasha Banks and Bayley make ratings go up, so WWE was always going to bring her back. The real joy of all of this though is that before these two did fall out, I didn't really know who was going to be the face and who was going to be the heel. I presumed it should be Sasha Banks being the good guy, because that made more sense, but I was like, how are you going to make me feel sympathy for her after everything she's done? Well, they figured it out. Because Sasha was just so devastated about everything that had happened, you could see it all over her face. And she told this amazing story about her and Bayley had had all these adventures since the Performance Center in NXT and coming up to Raw and coming up to SmackDown. And the only reason they meant so much to her is because they did it together. Somebody's cutting onions. She then switched on a dime, called Bayley an idiot and said, "You've done it now. You've gone and made a big mistake." And it was like all this fire was in her belly. Unfortunately, she was looking at the camera, much like I'm looking at the camera now. She wasn't looking behind her, and then boom, poof, wow, Bayley was here, and once again, she really did start to kick her ass. Absolutely waffled Sasha, and if it wasn't for a bunch of referees running in, she was gonna get that chair, she was gonna put it around Banks' neck and stamp on it, probably breaking this area of her body and taking her out of wrestling forever. This feud is just great. It just is. It makes all the sense in the world. We've taken our time. There is so much build. I cannot wait for that moment when we get our comeuppance and we get that satisfaction of Sasha Banks being the women's champion. And she said that here too. She was like, "I'm going to take your title, Bayley, because I know that's all you care about." Come on! I kind of feel the same way about the Intercontinental title, because finally WWE is just focused on it and making it feel like a big deal. Up. I mean, for one, it was AJ Styles versus Sami Zayn, and how can that ever be bad? And Sami is just so good in this role, because halfway through his entrance, he's right in the camera just going, "Greg," talking about the announcer, "why didn't you say I was the Intercontinental Champ? The belt is right here, why'd you have to piss me off?" Styles used that to just jump Sami Zayn and start beating up on him, and there was this absolutely awesome near fall after the Blue Thunder Bomb, where I actually thought that Sami Zayn had won, but it did make me realise, why isn't that his finisher? It is such a cool looking move, and yet it never beats anybody. After this, however, it did, of course, being a WWE show, come the battle of who can pull off the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment the best, because Sami Zayn rolled up AJ Styles, but he held the tights, and the ref was like, "What are you doing, you moron? I'm not gonna let that happen." But in all the confusion, AJ Styles then used the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, but his was a lot better, and he got the 1, 2, 3 and the victory. Pull down the board, that's number 77. Never forget, we only began in March 2020, and after this, outran Jeff Hardy, and he is so mad, and he is so livid that he keeps being called a fraud, that he started hitting people with a ladder. I mean, that sounds like perfectly normal behavior, but what it does mean is that he wants to fight them at Clash of Champions, not in a normal match, not in a triple threat match, but in a ladder match. And once again, are you kidding me? Do you know how good that is gonna be? Jeff Hardy probably gonna try and kill himself. And I'm not gonna lie, this got me so excited, I'm not even gonna give a down for that surprise roll-up. And I know a couple of months ago I said I always was gonna do this, but I'm being an asshole. And there ain't nothing you can do about it. I just think it's gonna be great. Remember all that excitement I had too at the start of this video? Well, turn it around and give it a down. And I think the main reason is just that there's no continuity in WWE, because we found out who Miz was talking to on the phone, and I guess it was a lawyer, because Otis got served with papers. The Miz is suing him because he attacked him on the dirt sheet, and the dirt sheet is a news program, and therefore Otis was apprehending his free speech. What? The idea is that this will all be dropped as Otis sacrifices his money in the bank briefcase, but this is absolutely ludicrous. For starters, think about the amount of times we've seen this angle over and over, and also there is footage of Miz admitting this was part of his plan. I don't think that's going to look very good in court. Now, the really good thing here is that after Otis said that they were in trouble, Tucker was like, "I ain't in trouble, bro, but you are." And I was like, oh my gosh, is he going to turn his back? I don't want to see the end of Heavy Machinery, but as we've already established, I like these planting of seeds. Also, just to clarify, Otis was brilliant here. Nearly every word that Tucker said to him, he reacted like he had no idea what it meant. So he said lawsuit. He's like, lawsuit? Then he said money in the bank briefcase. He was like, briefcase? Otis is brilliant. We then actually paid off all that security guard nonsense from a couple of weeks ago. I honestly almost fell on the floor. I couldn't believe it. You know what I'm talking about. That security guy just came up to Big E and went, "Oh, your mate Xavier Woods is here." And then Sheamus beat him up. So it was like, well, is that security guard on the take? Well, it turns out that he is, because Sheamus and Baron Corbin were having a conversation here. He walked in, and the Irishman couldn't have been happier to see him. Sheamus also these days looks like he fell out of a comic or something, but I kind of like it. Then got a little bit confusing as the same security guard told Sheamus that his car was being towed, but that was also a ruse because then Big E was back and beating him up. But then Big E also beat up said security guard and even smashed him through a car. So I understand how any of that works, but I don't care. Because like I just said, Big E is back. He's looking really strong. He looked serious, dare I say it, which is the criticism that keeps getting thrown at him. Somebody make him the damn Universal Champion yesterday. Adam Pearce obviously broke this up because he's in charge of everything now, including your life and my life and everybody's life. And then we got another mystery tease for this woman who's coming back. And I've changed my mind. I think it's Carmella. And then flipping Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman too. This relationship is absolute gold, and it's the polar opposite of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. Because Heyman was going to do his usual stick here. Roman was like, give me that. And he took the microphone and he's like, look, everybody listen to me. He said he had arrived first this week because he doesn't want there to be any more confusion, and also said, this is not only my yard, but it's my island. Massive round of applause for Roman Reigns. His business is just increasing and getting massive by the day. He's gone from a tiny yard to an island. What an inspiration. We then had a Samoan Street Fight, which is just a street fight, but I can't throw any barbs at this. The street fight seems to be the flavor of the week in wrestling, but everybody is doing it real well. The match was just wild, with tables and barricades being broken and around about 64,742 bumps on the floor, but I'm not even going to worry about any about that because this was all about characterization, it was all about story and a healthy bit of violence thrown in the middle. Because at one point Roman Reigns even low-blowed Sheamus, so he doesn't give a crap anymore, and the end of this was just so well worked because Roman Reigns gave his big spear to Baron Corbin, but then out of the corner of his eye he saw a flying Jey Uso, he got out the way, Uso hit the splash, and he basically stole the pin, much like Cousin Roman had done on last week's show. Roman pretended afterwards he was all happy and Care Bears and even hugged Jey Uso, but as soon as he had turned his back, he looked at Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman honestly looked like he saw a ghost. He was so worried about what Roman was going to do, and the look on his face, he was so mad, he was so angry, he was just, looked like he was ready to burst. I couldn't believe it. I was like, why have we taken so long to allow Roman to be this guy? I believe every single damn thing he does. It was as if Jey Uso had just wiped his save file on Mario, and this match at Clash of Champions is going to be so good because Roman Reigns is going to absolutely wreck his family. Jey Uso, he don't even see it coming. He needs to go get an extra eye. Do not talk to one Rey Mysterio. But honestly, I thought this SmackDown was great, and I thought last week's SmackDown was great. I just think SmackDown right now is a really great show. If you don't agree, that's fine. But I do, obviously, up. Now don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of SmackDown. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and man, you gotta go watch more videos here on WhatCulture, including retro ups and downs for December to December 2006. If I have to go through it, you can at least do me the very nice solid of watching the damn thing. But my name is Simon from WhatCulture. Make sure you have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week.